Hey everybody, Congressman Mike Gallagher here. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person today, but I'm happy I could at least have the opportunity to share some insight into what is happening here in Congress. As you know, all the attention has revolved around this big budget reconciliation bill, and I'm sure we could spend all day discussing that. But I want to take some time to address a less discussed but important effort on the Hill surrounding technology policy. Now, I don't have to tell you that the pandemic exposed a number of vulnerabilities in our supply chains. We saw this with our medical supply chains, and as a result, there's been a bipartisan push to make sure that this doesn't happen with supply chains for other critical technologies that directly impact our national security, such as 5G or AI. The good news is that there is bipartisan support for addressing these problems on Capitol Hill. For example, earlier this year, I co-chaired a bipartisan task force with my Democratic colleague from Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin. And our final report, which we released back in July, made a recommendation that would help mitigate vulnerabilities, enhance our resilience, and better secure our defense supply chain. And a number of our recommendations made it into this year's defense authorization bill, including establishing a department-wide supply chain risk assessment framework and requiring a plan to reduce adversary presence in our supply chain. But that's not all. As you know, earlier this year, the Senate passed a bipartisan U.S. Competitiveness and Innovation Act. This is a $250 billion bill designed to boost U.S. semiconductor production, scientific research, development of artificial intelligence, and space exploration. And it builds upon my bill, something called the Endless Frontier Act, which I know some of us have discussed before. In short, I believe this bill would really make a down payment on American technological leadership for future generations. The bill would not only restructure the National Science Foundation by establishing a technology directorate within the organization, but it would also make a significant investment over 5 years to lead in R&D investments in artificial intelligence and machine learning, high performance computing, automation, 5G, advanced manufacturing, and more. These new research investments would translate into new American companies in manufacturing, more high-tech jobs in America, and I think opportunities for regions across the country to become global centers of emerging technology industries. It's currently stalled in the House as the Democrats try to cobble together the votes for their much bigger partisan reconciliation bill, but my hope is that we can put all that aside and shift our focus to getting this bill, which I call the China bill, because it would help us compete effectively with China across the finish line. And imagine a world in which China, the Chinese Communist Party, had the ability to cut off our access to the internet because Huawei, their state champion in 5G, has a near monopoly on the global 5G network and supply chains therein, or a world in which Beijing can set the rules for using artificial intelligence and surveillance technologies, normalizing its gross violations of human rights in places like Xinjiang. Without significant investment in American ingenuity, there's no guarantee that we can avoid these futures. And I think it's time for us to make an investment in our own research capabilities as well as investing in our future. And we'll see the payout in the future. And that's exactly what this bill does. The final thing I'd say is that, in discussions about technology, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole of fancy acronyms and this and that. But fundamentally, this remains a human endeavor, right? This is human beings working hard and collaborating with other human beings in order to build businesses, provide for their children, or keep the country secure. And that's what it's all about. And part of my focus in Congress is making sure that in Northeast Wisconsin, we can lead the way when it comes to that next generation, making those investments and making sure that we're really a hub for hard work and technological leadership in the 21st century. So thank you for everything you guys do with that in mind. And thanks for letting me talk your ear off for a little bit.